If you guys are ready, I guess I'll let everyone in now, and then Charles, the floor is yours.
All righty.
All right. 3, 2, 1. People are joining now.
All righty. Look at that. Oh my goodness. Look at
Hey, Mr. Boy,
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I met your brother in LA a few years back.
My brother Mike.
Yeah, and I got his CD, by the way.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
And-
Mike, I just spoke with him just the other day. I'm in Meridian, Mississippi right now. We getting ready to work on a baseball project down here. So I'm down here in the process of putting that together, and got a chance to talk to my brother. He's gonna be in about another couple of weeks and check on me. I hadn't seen him in a while.
Good. He's a good man.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a bunch of us, and very precious to me. He was a pretty good ball player too when he was growing up. I'm sure he told you
Well, he said, you got the shot, but
that. You're exactly right.
he said, you got the shot. But
He's
everybody-
exactly right. It was a bunch of them before me, and
Yeah. He said,
given
you
the
got-
opportunity, just listening in a little while ago and talking about the black universities and the level of talent is there. I don't know the scouting process, but when I played at Jackson State University, it was an abundance of scouts and coming there to see us perform and prepare ourselves for playing professional baseball. There was an opportunity given to us, and I don't know why now it's a reduction of some type going on, coming down to see the kids in the deep South play baseball. And because that's where the bed of African American ball players, that's where we are.
Yeah.
This is where I grew up at, and I can tell you that baseball is very, very strong. From the Carolinas all the way down to the tip of Florida, all the way across the border to Texas. Baseball, Arkansas. We have. This is where the true Negro League came from. And I'm a fifth generation ball player, and I can tell you this is where it came from. And I'm just a few feet away from where Satchel Paige, Barnstone, and the whole thing. My dad seeing Hank Aaron and playing against Hank Aaron, growing up out of Mobile and playing against Willie McCovey, growing up as kids, and seeing Willie Mays also over in Birmingham, and all the Negro Leaguers that were from around this area made it very prominent that, the game is very genetic. Of course, you know that. So this is where you want to shop for, the African American ball player. We down here, and it's tons of them. So, it's not what they say it is in the major league that we're not playing baseball. You got to go down there. You got to go get them.
And with that, I would say we'll begin, but we've really already begun. I love the preamble from Dennis Oil Can Boyd, and I'm Charles Steinberg, the president of your WooSox, and I'm here at one of my favorite events. Every year now for 19 straight years, we have celebrated at the Red Sox Jackie Robinson's birthday. And the reason that we've done it is a story that goes back to when Larry Lucchino and I were in San Diego, where we were with the San Diego Padres. And in 1997, it was the 50th anniversary of Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier. And in San Diego, there was a YMCA, no surprise. Every city, I suppose, has one. But the one in San Diego was the only one named in honor of Jackie Robinson. It was the Jackie Robinson Family YMCA. And a gentleman named Michael Brunker, who had also been a partner of ours with the police athletic leagues, he oversaw the Jackie Robinson Family YMCA, and he said, look, I want to do a charity fundraiser in honor of Jackie Robinson's 50th anniversary. Would you all help? Well, we gladly helped. I did, our head of community relations, Michelle Anderson, did. A young man who had interned for me in Baltimore when we were with the Orioles threw himself into it. He was quite a Negro League scholar. He actually still is, although his career in baseball has allowed him to spread his wings a little bit. But that was young Theo Epstein. So Theo and Michelle and I helped create this fundraiser, and they had Dodger greats who knew Jackie Robinson, who had played with him, speak, and it got television coverage. And so one of the television stations did a story, and in your typical man on the street interview, they took a woman on the street, a young girl, 11 years old, African American, and the reporter said to her, "Do you know who Jackie Robinson was?" And she smiled and said, "Well, I've heard of her, but I don't exactly know what she did." And it is human nature to chuckle at the sweetness and the innocence, and yet there was a sadness that I felt that Jackie's name may be perishing. Major League Baseball had not done a commemoration yet. They would that later that year, but we didn't know that. And that's where the idea came from, to teach the story of Jackie Robinson. In the most unlikely of connections, it's the Jewish faith. I'm Jewish. That gave me the idea, because every year in late March or early April, we celebrate Passover, and we tell the story the same way every year all over the world at a dinner, about how we were slaves for 400 years in Egypt, and how with an outstretched arm, the good Lord freed us from slavery. Well, that story is 3,000 years old. But Jackie's story was fading after 50 years. And I thought, well, maybe if we tell the story, particularly to young people, every year, year after year, like a Passover Seder, we can perpetuate his story, honor his name, recognize his achievements, and why they not only extend so much beyond baseball, how they changed the world, but they changed the lives of the children who haven't even been born yet, because they are free to pursue any career they want in America. They can be a doctor, they can be a lawyer, they can be an accountant, without fear that because of their race, they won't be allowed to. So that's where the idea came from. And when we took over the Boston Red Sox in 2002, we knew that we were taking over a team that had many good assets, but its relationships with the African American community wasn't one of them. And it was the principal owner of the Red Sox, John Henry, who walked down the hall in March of 2002 and shook a book at me, a book that was about to be published by Howard Bryant called Shut Out, and it chronicled the Red Sox reprehensible history with African Americans. And he said, "It's your job to change this." Well, that's quite a thrill to have the wind at your back from the owner of the team, from also the chairman, Tom Werner, and particularly the president and CEO, Larry Lucchino. And that gave us the strength, that gave us the courage, the backing to really look at the Red Sox past right in the face and say, it was wrong, and here is how we will try to right it. And it had been improving, but it still had a long way to go. So on Jackie Robinson's birthday in 2003, we established the first of these celebrations of life. And for it to be the 19th annual is, well, it's not 3,000 years, but it's a start. So that's why we do this. This year, we add another dimension, because a man who I knew well and who would be the first to tell you that his career was only made possible by Jackie Robinson has passed away, and that was Hank Aaron. And I want to pay tribute to him as well. What he achieved is enormous. And yet, when you think of Jackie Robinson and what he went through to be able to play ball, what Hank Aaron went through to break Babe Ruth's record, what Frank Robinson went through to be the first Black manager, how did they have the strength? And a number of years ago, not too many, it was 2012, so 9 years ago, Janet Marie Smith, who was building Polar Park with Larry Lucchino here in Worcester, had suggested to the Orioles, she'd gone back to the Orioles after saving Fenway Park, that we create a statue for each of the 6 greatest Orioles, Brooks Robinson, Frank Robinson, Jim Palmer, Earl Weaver, Cal Ripken, and Eddie Murray. And the first statue to be dedicated was to Frank Robinson. And our colleague, Steve Oliveira, is going to show you a picture now of these 3 ladies who all congregated that day for Frank Robinson's statue dedication. And it just strikes me that there should be a moment that we realize that in the middle is Rachel Robinson. That's Jackie's widow. Now today, she's 98, bless her heart. Back then, she what, 91? Or no, she was 89, sorry, 89. And on the right is Barbara Robinson, Frank Robinson's now widow. And on the left is the latest to join this poignant club. That's Billy Aaron. Billy Aaron is Hank Aaron's now widow. But all 3 pioneers were backed by the most dignified, gracious, elegant women that I've known in my baseball career. So I asked for this picture to be taken. That's why you see an Oriole bird in the background. We were there to celebrate Frank Robinson's statue. And I just think that the whole story of Jackie Robinson is embodied in the 3 women, that he fought with his bat, but not with his fists. The grace and the dignity that he carried forth, that Hank Aaron carried forth, are really stories of how to create change. We've seen a lot of protest this year, and we'll see a lot more. But protest is a claim that something's wrong that has to be corrected. But how you correct it is change. And Jackie Robinson was change. He was change without violence. He was change without a fight.
I can't see my.
But he was change. Hank Aaron was a catalyst for change. Frank Robinson was change. So we're seeing protests today, and let's hope that what we actually see too is change. All right, Steve, thank you for showing that picture. Let me introduce our guests, because they're just absolutely well, they're just terrific folks who I'm glad have joined us. My colleagues from the WooSox, you see Joe Bradley, who is head of our community and player relations, and Alex Richardson, who is his lieutenant on community and player relations, and the manager of your WooSox. First time we can say manager of the WooSox, Billy McMillon, who had not only a great career. We like to laud and tease about some of the big moments. Yes, he hit a grand slam off Roger Clemens, but I still love the story of the 2003 playoffs when he was wearing the Oakland uniform, and we're in that best of 5 series. Here it is, game 5. We have a 2-run lead against his Oakland A's in the bottom of the 8th. And who does he get to come up and face but Pedro Martinez. Go ahead.
Martinez out of the stretch. Check Singleton. Here's the 0-1 pitch. Base hit right field. Singleton rounding third. Here's Nixon up with the ball, and Singleton will score without a throw. And Billy McMillon signals to right, and the A's are down by 1. Red Sox 4, Athletics 3. And they're going nuts at the Coliseum.
Now, he had a lot of great moments in his career, but that's a fun one because, Billy, tell us what happened when you then joined Pedro and recalled that moment to him.
When Pedro joined the Red Sox as an advisor, he came to Portland where I was, and I was introducing my son to Pedro, and I was telling him that one of my highlights of my career was that base hit off of him. And Pedro looked at me and he said, "Charity, just charity, Billy, charity." I thought that was kind of funny.
And you can just picture Pedro with that. And, you know, for Red Sox fans, you know, thank goodness the game, the score stayed, and we, of course, went to New York for the dramatic ALCS that Aaron Boone punctured with that home run, but it set up everything in 2004. So Billy has seen it all, been with Oakland, been with Detroit, and has been with us in Pawtucket, and before that Portland. One more anecdote. You were in Portland when the second base prospect was going to move to the outfield. Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, so in 2014, Mookie Betts was the starting second baseman in Portland, and Pedroia was still the man. And so, as hot as Mookie was at the plate, we figured that the best opportunity for him to get to the big leagues and stay was to be an outfielder. So early, he'd come out and we'd do some outfield work to just try to get him acclimated to playing the outfield. And now he's one of the game's best. And I was there in Portland when he made the transition.
And as we think about Jackie Robinson, imagine if Billy hadn't been allowed to be the manager. Imagine if Mookie hadn't been allowed to play. Imagine if David Ortiz had not been allowed to be with us in 2004 and 2007 and 2013. Imagine if Pedro hadn't been allowed to pitch for us. Imagine if in the 1986 World Series, we hadn't been allowed to have this gentleman. And think about it, as he told you, 5th generation professional baseball player. That means his great grandfather, shortly after the Civil War, became a professional baseball player. Welcome, everyone's favorite, Dennis Oil Can Boyd.
Hey, how everybody doing? Hey, I don't know where you guys are, but right now I'm in 70-degree weather down here in Mississippi. So, but I understand back east where you guys at, it's pretty cold and snow and everything, but it's a pleasure to be on. I'm getting ready to go out to the ballpark and work with some kids this afternoon. And I was out there yesterday, and, you know, this is what I love to do. And, you know, to be on today and talk about a little bit about baseball and baseball history it's my pleasure. And thank you for having me.
Well, welcome, Oil Can. You're always there for us, and we appreciate it. A young man who maybe we'll see in Worcester this year, but his destination is Fenway Park, is a flame-throwing pitcher, Seth Blair. And Seth, you want to say hello and tell us where are you calling in from today?
Hey everyone, it's good to see some of you guys. I'm calling in from Scottsdale, Arizona today. It's really nice. It's really nice out here, so I'm excited to kind of get out and play some baseball this afternoon.
So here's a clip from this past season of him striking out one of the top hitters in the organization. And, you know, it's kind of risky to show you striking out that hitter when that hitter is the next one on the screen. But yes, that was slugging first baseman Josh Ockimey, who is greeting us from Philadelphia. Seth, do you remember striking out Josh on that pitch?
I don't know.
Josh, do you remember going down against Seth?
I do. It was one of those days, man. I was just like, man, like, that was a good pitch, but yeah, like, like Seth said, great to see all you guys. I'm jealous of you guys who are in the warm weather right now. I'm looking out my window and seeing snow falling, and that just makes me, itch for warmer weather in a few couple weeks here. So,
well, we are glad that you're with us. And how you've been in Philadelphia all winter? Let's see. Well, we get your audio fixed. Let's take a look at Josh Ockimey as a left-handed hitter. Go ahead.
Running.
Yes.
Ockimey skies it deep to right, down the line. That one is a chance, and that one is a home run, right down the line over the pole. And back-to-back days, we've seen home runs from big left-handed hitters. Good to see Ockimey knock one out. There's a ground ball on the right side. Nice play by Ockimey. Gets up, easy toss to Walden. Great play by Ockimey.
All right, yeah. How about it, Ock? On the backhand.
Look at that. Good defensive first baseman and a slugging first baseman. And, we're going to have a 22-foot high wall in right field, Josh, but your home runs have an arc to them, though, don't they? You're not worried about clearing the, are you? You'll be all right. You'll have to see Polar Park when you want to come to where it's even colder than Philadelphia. But yeah, it's true. So Billy McMillon is coming to us from South Carolina. Oil Can, you're in Mississippi?
Yes. Yep.
Seth is in Scottsdale. Josh is in Philadelphia. And this next gentleman, can you imagine being a bat boy in the Negro Leagues on the buses? Well, yes. And he grew up to leave Augusta, Georgia, and moved to California, where he became head of the NCAA's California chapter. Larry Lucchino and I started getting to know him when we were with the San Diego Padres, and he's been instrumental in helping us know and understand various social issues, African American, but other issues too. And that's Frank Jordan, who in this warm weather trend greets us from San Diego, California. So welcome our dear friend, Frank Jordan.
A good morning, and well, it's morning, Mike. It's good to see everybody. And I'm finally getting a chance to speak to all can, and I'm going to call your brother today and let him know we connected. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but one of our greatest supporter and friends, Springfield, Massachusetts, passed this morning. And he was with us last February the 1st when we did the celebration of the legacy of Jackie Robinson in Worcester. In fact, they brought a bus load of kids and people that love baseball to Worcester. His name was Deacon James Goodman, and he was also the son of baseball superfan Miss Viola Goodman, who passed away 3 years ago at the age of 105. Now, this lady was a walking textbook when it came to talk about baseball. And so we're mourning his death, but we're celebrating his legacy. And I'm glad to be on the call this morning. And it's about 68 degrees where I live, and I'll be headed by the bay later on just to get some of that breeze off the ocean. So I'm just grateful to be alive, guys.
Well, we will hear some stories too in a little bit from you of what it was like to be on the buses in the Negro Leagues as a little kid. When time passes, some of these stories fade into the history books. And what's been important over these 19 years of commemorating Jackie Robinson is to keep fresh the stories from people who actually experienced them. And I say that as though it were the past. Unfortunately, it's not. We still have a long way to go until there is a level playing field, until there is equality, and until you can pursue your dream of just playing ball without worries that someone's going to try to stop you from doing what you want to do, which is just play ball for such reasons. So let's though take a look at a short piece beautifully written by Tom Verducci, who may be the best writer of baseball today, and whose nephew, Jack, worked for the WooSox. Some of you have met Jack Verducci. But here is his tribute to Hank Aaron, who said over and over that he owed everything to Jackie Robinson's pioneering leadership character. Here's a tribute to Hank Aaron.
Hitting is hammering. Both are simple physics. The use of a force amplifier to convert mechanical work into kinetic energy. The goal? Deliver a big impact to a small area.
This one is long gone. Big fly.
Man has complicated the task. Open stances or closed, hands held high or low, feet together or apart, big swings, short swings. Amid these variations on a theme, one man stands out. One man came closer than all others to delivering a dead, solid, perfect blow to a baseball, time after time, game after game, year after year. Henry Louis Aaron, Hammer and Hank, the Hammer. Hank Aaron is the first name in hitting, not just alphabetically, as he is among all men who managed one hit in the majors, but also in the sheer purity of putting bat to ball. Others can have their style points, their fancy finishes, their many whiffs trying to hit the ball far. Aaron stuck to simple physics. I played sometimes about as dull as you can play it, Aaron said. I did things the right way. Aaron played 23 seasons. He came to the plate almost 14,000 times. He hit .305 with 755 home runs. No one ever combined hitting for average and power over a more sustained period.
Say home run, Henry Aaron.
Aaron finished with 6,856 total bases, more than 700 total bases beyond everyone else. The gap between Aaron and number 2 on the list, Stan Musial, is more than 12 miles worth of bases. The key to Aaron's swing were his powerful wrists.
The greatest wrist hitter in baseball.
Virtually every hitter must sit on fastballs and react to off speed. So quick and so strong were Aaron's wrists that he did the opposite. He once said, "I looked for the same pitch my whole career, a breaking ball, all the time. I never worried about the fastball. They couldn't throw it past me. None of them." Pitcher Curt Simmons said it best. Trying to sneak a fastball past Hank Aaron is like trying to sneak a sunrise past a rooster. If Aaron was, by his own admission, a dull hitter, then Big Ben is just a clock and the Grand Canyon is a hole in the ground. Reliability made him a wonder. Aaron never hit 50 home runs, but he hit between 40 and 47 8 times. He hit 300 with 30 home runs 11 times.
Here he is, Henry Aaron. This could be the pennant tonight.
As the stakes became larger, Aaron became better.
And there it goes! Going, going, going,
He hit .324 with runners in scoring position.
Hank is at his best with runners on base.
And .362 in the postseason.
Hank Aaron, who hit 44 home runs in the regular season, has just hit his third World Series home run.
Then again, as a black man during the struggle for civil rights, Aaron constantly played under pressure. From the time he integrated the South Atlantic League in 1953 to breaking Ruth's home run record in 1974.
A black man is getting a standing ovation in the Deep South.
Aaron faced obstacles no white hitter ever faced.
And I just thank God it's all over with. Thank you very much.
Ted Williams said hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in sports. Swing a round bat at a round baseball and connect squarely. Aaron made it look simple. Koufax called him the greatest hitter he ever faced. With a bat in his hands, he was the hammer. Simple, powerful, the one to deliver maximum impact. Echoes of his impact will never fade.
Well, quite a piece by Tom Verducci on the MLB Network. And as I say, we wanted to recognize Hank Aaron. Think about it. Jackie Robinson endured the worst of death threats. 27 years later, Hank Aaron endured the worst of death threats. A year later, Frank Robinson, becoming the first black manager, had to go through it. Why death threats for someone just looking to play ball? And had Jackie Robinson not broken through that barrier, we don't know who would have or when they would have. We say Jackie Robinson, and in the same breath, we have to say Branch Rickey, the president and general manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers, because he had the courage to completely go against the system. There were 16 major league clubs, and they had the commissioner, the first commissioner of baseball, Kennesaw Mountain Landis, had died in 1944, and there was a bit of a void in the commissioner's power. The succeeding commissioner didn't have the same power that Landis had, and the 16 owners took a vote on integration, and it was rejected 15-1. But the one, Branch Rickey, went and did it anyway. He dared them to stop him. So we're looking at the past to look at agents of change, but we actually need these agents of change today, as we see. So let me welcome someone who is representing so many people in Worcester. We have City Council member Christian King with us for the second straight year. And Councilman King, I think you're on. Can we hear a hello from you as you support this educational program? I think there you go. Yell when you're unmuted and connected. I see you there. I also see the superintendent of schools for Worcester Public Schools, our partner, Maureen Benenda. And Superintendent, I'm very grateful that you are with us as well, as we look to see how to use baseball as a teacher to children and help them understand that their dreams are in part made possible by baseball in general and Jackie Robinson in particular. While we invite Councilor King to chime in whenever that works, let me start with you, Billy. When did you first become aware of Jackie Robinson? When did his role enter into your life?
I became aware of Jackie Robinson at a very young age. My father, although born in South Carolina, was raised in New York, and he recounted stories along with my grandfather when I was a kid about how they would go to Ebbets Field and see Jackie Robinson play, and how the whole neighborhood like would swell with pride when Jackie Robinson did something really spectacular on the field. He also often talked about how they would have the radio on just to listen to the Brooklyn Dodgers play. And so at a very young age, I became aware of just how important Jackie Robinson was, not only to African-American ball players, but to society, Black society in general at that time, and a huge source of pride and admiration for communities.
And many know the story that Branch Rickey said to Jackie Robinson when he taunted him and said, "This is what you're going to face, but you can't fight back. You have to take it." I don't know that anyone can understand that pain, to take it, to not fight back. But I think that was one of the great lessons of self-control and command that Jackie had, all while embarking on a Hall of Fame career.
Yeah, I was going to add that, and perform on the field while restraining himself. That probably is the part that's really remarkable for me. It's not, I could see somebody just taking it, but taking it and still performing, that unbelievable, the amount of ability and character that he displayed throughout his career.
Seth Blair, tell us about as you've grown up from being a kid playing ball to now in the Boston Red Sox organization. Was either Jackie's story a part of your life, or was integration an issue? Where did you grow up playing ball?
I grew up in Illinois playing baseball. I would say that I was well aware of Jackie Robinson from the time that I started really understanding baseball, probably 8 years old. One of the reasons I think for me was every year when all the guys would switch their jerseys to number 42, I just like have this like recollection of Ken Griffey Jr. switching from 24 to 42, and that always feeling like a big deal to me. And so I don't know, for me, that was at a young age when I recognized all that. And then throughout my journey, obviously, you just really see the way that the game has changed because of Jackie Robinson.
You know, when I told the story at the outset about 1997, I said baseball hadn't yet recognized Jackie in a commemorative way. It happened later that year, and it was on April 15th of 97 that Commissioner Bud Selig retired Jackie's 42 across the game. Unprecedented, had never happened. And the idea to do something special had come from an African-American leader in Major League Baseball, Len Coleman, who at the time was president of the National League. And he had said to the commissioner, you know, the 50th anniversary, we should do something really significant and dramatic. And that's when Bud decided to retire his number. I worked for Selig for 5 years, in part helping him as he wrote his memoirs. And he's sitting and telling me the story one day about how he would go to Scottsdale every weekend in the winter. And he came home on a Sunday night and he had a message from Ken Griffey Jr. And he called him back, and Ken Griffey Jr. said, "Commissioner, sorry to bother you on a Sunday night, but a few of us were talking about it, and we were wondering, we know that the Dodgers were all wearing 42 in honor of Jackie Robinson. What if all of us in Major League Baseball wore 42? And so it was actually Ken Griffey Jr., who you picture, who actually had the idea to expand it across Major League Baseball, called Selig, who said, "Let me think about it and I'll call you tomorrow." And as Bud told me the story, he said, "Of course, I knew it was a great idea. I just am incapable of making a decision on the spot." And called him back the next day. And that's why on April 15th, throughout Major League Baseball, everyone wears 42. It's cool to see that got to you and touched you, because I'm guessing you're young enough when Gosh, were you even around in '97?
Yeah, no, I was born in 1989.
Okay, you're at least you have a few years to have experienced the change that we saw, and playing with ball players on the way up the ladder. Have you experienced ball players who've ever talked about what they've gone through on the way, or do we think that that's mostly something that is in the past?
I've definitely heard of things that guys have gone through. I'm kind of open to listening to all sorts of stories, and I mean, there's stuff that still goes on today that is disappointing, and I think that it is hopefully going to be changing with all the awareness that we have now and going forward. I mean, I know in the clubhouse that you don't really think about it, but with the way that media goes about all of the attention that they're given to it, hopefully the fans and everyone involved is just more understanding.
Josh Ockimey, how has Jackie Robinson's story influenced you? Did you hear about him when you were a kid, or is it a recent addition to your baseball knowledge?
I'd say I was the same as most of these guys. I was, very young, when, I've heard of of him, and but it wasn't until I got probably, I'd say around like, fifth or sixth grade, I was able to kind of fully understand, the real significance of him, and reading again what he had to go through, and um, you know just really seeing that, how the times were back then, and how brutal it was for not only him, but later with guys like Hank Aaron, and um, you know all the really earlier black players in baseball. They all went through you know really bad, like you said, death threats, and you know pitchers were hitting them on purpose, and just because of their skin color. But yeah, I'd say I was very young. So
Did you have let's see, you when you played, you grew up playing Little League in Philadelphia?
yeah.
And if I remember, you played what, across town, and it was it was integrated.
Yes. Well, so that Little League, it was only one other black kid in the entire Little League. And yeah, so it's funny because I found a picture of my dad when he played Little League, and it was in like 60, I want to say 66 or 67, and he was the only black kid on the team. And I recently found one of my Little League, pictures, and I'm looking at myself and me and my brother, only two black kids on the team. And it's a shame that baseball, I feel like it needs to reach more into inner city communities. So because again, like we see what we can do to the sport, and I really think that again, like we should try to make a push. So
I think that your story and Seth's story are a lead into a clip that we have to show. When one day we were at Fenway Park, and a guest in Larry Lucchino's suite was a man named Thomas Tull. Now, I don't know that he is famous enough that any of you have ever heard of him, but sometimes the most influential people in Hollywood are not the most famous. And he sat there with us and explained the story. He said he was head of Legendary Entertainment. How many of you have ever heard of the movie The Hangover? And The Hangover 2. and The Hangover 3.
Mhm.
And I quote him. He said, Charles, I made my fortune on The Hangover, Hangover 2, and Hangover 3. That's what allowed me to make the movie that I wanted to make. I didn't have to worry about whether 42 would be a box office success. It was the movie I wanted to make. I love baseball, and I believe the story of Jackie Robinson needs to be told in perpetuity. And so that's why 42 was made. And I think it's had a dramatic impact in helping people know the story. It's a raw story, and it was a raw journey. And there's a story we'd all grown up hearing about on a trip to Cincinnati, which is right across the river from Kentucky. And Pee Wee Reese, one of the great Dodger players of all time, shortstop, had family from Louisville. And the story goes, he put his arm around Jackie in Cincinnati. Well, here is that moment in Hollywood's big picture. Let's take a look.
Cincinnati fans expressing their displeasure as the Dodgers take the field.
Jack Robinson at first, Brad Eddie Snaky at second, Buddy Jorgensen at third, and the captain, Pee Wee Reese at short. Fans, ask any man and they'll tell you the Gillette Super Speed Razor is our honey. Maybe the sweetest shaving razor you will ever use. Look sharp, feel sharp, be sharp.
They can say all they want. We're just here to play ball.
It's just a bunch of crackpots still fighting the Civil War.
Well, hell, we'd have won that son of a gun if the cornstalks would have held out. We just ran out of ammunition.
Better luck next time, Pee Wee.
Ain't gonna be a next time, Jax. All we got's right here. Right now, you know what I mean? Thank you, Jax.
What are you thanking me for?
I got family up there from Louisville. I need them to know. I need them to know who I am.
Hey, number one! You playing ball or socializing?
Playing ball, huh?
Play ball! Don't let us get to you!
Playing ball. Maybe tomorrow we'll all wear 42. That way they won't tell us apart.
Fans will never forget the sight of Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson smashes double to left field.
I ain't gonna tell no lies. I ain't gonna apologize. You can see just where I stand. You know exactly who I am. Taking everything I want. Don't believe me, then just watch. Standing like the earth is mine. Moving like I own this time. Can't stop me now. Can't stop me now. Can't stop me now. I'm just doing what I do. Won't stop doing what I do. Can't stop me now. Ain't backing down. Can't stop me now. I'm just doing what I do. Won't stop doing what I do. Can't stop me now. Can't stop me now.
That one toward the alley. On the move, Jackie and dive. Did he hang on? He's got it. He made the catch. Backhanded grab, and then he spun around.
Can't stop me now. I'm just doing what I do. Won't stop doing what I do. I'm trying to be
Bring it high ground to right field. That's going to the right. Hunter on the ball, racing back to overhead.
is never through. Every risk that I
incidentally, that statue of Jackie Robinson that is now at Dodger Stadium was the orchestration of that creation was done by Janet Marie Smith, who you will all get to know, I hope and trust, this summer in Worcester, as she's been putting her beautiful artistic imprint on Polar Park. It's the easiest way in a Zoom chat for you to send questions via chat to our guests. So we invite you to do that. As you do, I thought of this 19 years ago as a history to remember, and the nature of events in our country has transformed it to be a matter of current events, which is frustrating and disappointing that we still deal with this so much. But that's why I thought the picture, the scene of Pee Wee Reese putting his arm around Jackie was once again an illustration of change, an illustration of protest to protest. They were protesting that Jackie was playing. I protest you, putting my arm around you. And it's a reminder that we have a lot of work to do, and that there can be nothing that comes between teammates. Frank Jordan, you as folks jot their questions down if they have them, do you want to take us back to a scene or two as a bat boy on the bus in Augusta, Georgia in the Negro Leagues?
Yeah, my father, who was named Luther P. Jordan, my father was the pitcher, bus driver, and business manager, and head mechanic. So as a kid, sometimes I would get the opportunity to travel with them on the weekend and be the bat boy. And that was in the 50s, late 50s. And the school bus was a white bus, which was a school bus repainted white. And they would put the name of the team on the bus. And this team was called the Augusta Bears. They played in South Carolina and parts of Georgia. And I too am writing a book about my life growing up in the South. And many people think these players made a lot of money. And I remember the time there was 20 players. They played 2 games, one on Saturday and one on a Sunday afternoon. They couldn't play the Sunday game till after the church services was ended. So they played these 2 games and they divvied up the money from the gate. My dad's team ended up with $82 for both days. That was like $41 a day. And I think each player ended up getting $2 a piece for that weekend. So they didn't play for the money. They played for the love of the game. And what we have to do in this country to do more to promote the love of the game and open that door that our young people, especially Black and brown kids, can get an opportunity to learn the history of the game and the opportunity to play the history of the game. So I'm on this mission of getting the Red Sox to consider making a commitment to scout some of those teams and conferences that we've worked with through our outreach.
All righty. You know, Frank, you may not have made much money, but when we were in San Diego and then later in Boston, we worked with the wonderful Buck O'Neill,
yes,
one of the greatest. And
yes,
he would remind us, he said, don't cry for me. He
yes,
said, we had a great life. and he recounted the nightclubs with Duke Ellington that they'd be honorees in attending. He said, I danced with Lena Horne. He said, we had it fine. He said, it's just a shame we didn't get to play with the other greatest players in fair competition. And Buck O'Neill, as you can imagine, was a charm, and he spoke at one of our Jackie Robinson celebrations. By the way, one of the things he told us growing up in Sarasota, do you know why his last name was O'Neill? That was the name of the slave owner that had owned his family of slaves. And he said he was a very decent man who always treated the slaves well and never separated husbands and wives, didn't separate family members. And he said treated them so well that when it came time to be free, the family actually honored him by adopting his name. And that's why Buck O'Neill's last name was so. So you just pick up stories along the way. Cindy Maldonado, let's see, let me invite you. Steve, can she be unmuted to share a story? And then.
So that's not my name. I'm using my mom's computer.
Oh, you're using your mom. All right.
That's your name.
Tell us, introduce yourself to us.
So I'm Vladimir Maldonado. Vladimir Maldonado, and I play for the junior WooSox. I put on 11 years.
Well, thank you. Are you in school in Worcester? Oh, can you hear me? Are you
I can hear you. There's like something wrong. The host is not allowing participants to unmute themselves. Listen.
There it goes. Just got a little better. Keep going.
Yeah, I go to school in Worcester. Yeah.
Where?
I go to school at Jacob Hyatt. It's near Polo Park.
Good.
It's near there.
Well, your school superintendent.
I go to school in Main Street.
Good. Main Street. That's nearby. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you're excited that we'll be playing baseball at Polo Park this spring?
Yeah.
You'll come see us?
And Jackie Robinson was my inspiration. That's why I wear his number on my jersey.
How did you learn about Jackie Robinson?
When playing. So.
How did you learn the story?
He was my inspiration. I started reading books about him when I was like in about 4th grade, I think. I'm in 6th right now, so. I watched the movie that you just showed. I watched that movie, and I really liked it. So.
That's pretty cool. Charles, your mic's muted.
Yes, I muted myself and couldn't unmute. All right, but tell us your first name. Maldonado? It's not Cindy.
Oh yeah, my name is Vladimir Maldonado. Vladimir.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and that you started reading books in 4th grade. Now you're in 6th grade in Worcester. We're gonna have to, you're gonna get a free ticket thanks to your superintendent. You're gonna every school child in the city of Worcester is gonna get a free ticket to come to a game. So maybe we can say hello to you that day. Maybe that'll just be the first of many times that you come. I'm glad you said that, because it helps reassure me that young people are learning about Jackie Robinson. And Alex Richardson, who I introduced at the beginning of our program, went around and started interviewing ball players. And I think you interviewed AAU youth ball players. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
Tell us what happened and show us the clip.
Yeah, so I went over to Double Play Sports, AAU Academy, right on the Worcester-Leicester borderline, and that's actually where Vladimir plays. So he's on the 11U team, and when he found out that we were having this Jackie Robinson virtual celebration, he actually wrote us a really long, cool note about why Jackie Robinson is his inspiration and what baseball means to him. So I just want to share a quick little piece of his note that he was able to send to us. So right here, he says, "I love baseball. It is a part of me. My dream is to be a professional baseball player and be unforgettable. I wear the number 42 on my jersey because Jackie Robinson inspires me. This is the start of my dream." So it was just an amazing piece that Vladimir wrote to us. Like I mentioned before, he's on the 11U baseball team. And like he said, this is the start of his dream. But going back to yesterday, I was able to stop by Double Play Sports, and I was able to interview some kids who are on some of the teams, the 13U, the 16U. And I just wanted to ask them some questions to see how we're doing in terms of preserving Jackie's legacy. So this was their response.
Who was Jackie Robinson?
Jackie Robinson was the first African-American baseball player, to do it.
Jackie Robinson was the first black baseball player. The first African-American baseball player. The first African-American player to break the color barrier. He was the first African-American baseball player in the MLB.
What did you learn from Jackie Robinson?
To never try your hardest and never give up.
No matter how against you the odds are, to persevere and to never give up.
Jackie Robinson, I learned from Jackie Robinson is to not give up. Play hard and work for your goals and never give up. I learned that it doesn't matter where you come from, you can still play as hard as anyone else.
Well, we're getting there. And I share the joy of Vladimir being on this call, and for some of the teammates in Double Play. By the way, Double Play will, I guess it'll be a scoop if we reveal they'll be allowed to be called the Junior WooSox. I won't say that yet. We'll wait till there's a nice announcement. And that partnership happens thanks to Worcester native Major League pitcher Ryan O'Rourke, who we've been thrilled to get to know, and he's working with these great young players. One of the things about Worcester, we have been thrilled at what a baseball city and baseball county it is. We've just been thrilled that there is so much interest in the stories of baseball and so much talent in the playing of baseball. So that is very cool. Very cool. All righty. Skip, Billy McMillon, you're managing the team. You've got players who are black, white, brown, every nationality, kind of like Worcester. What is your guidance if a ball player wants to use the platform that they have as a ball player to speak out on social issues? How do they come to you? Do they ask? Do you have thoughts, rules, policies? Does it get discussed?
I don't really have a policy. I think if someone was going to do something maybe controversial, maybe the Red Sox organization might step up. I think my guidance would just be to be responsible, to be respectful, and understand that whatever you say out or you put in the universe, once you hit send, you can't take it back. So that would kind of be my guidance. We all know that social media offers great platforms to get messages across, and I would never want to restrict anyone from being able to express their views, I would probably just utter those cautions to just be careful on the tone that you say things, and that you may be opening up yourself to criticism from other people. So that would be my advice.
And Josh Ockimey, what were your thoughts this past summer as you went from somewhat, there's an anonymity in AAA somewhat, the ball players may know each other, but it's not the same level of scrutiny and attention that you get in the major leagues. But you chose to use your platform, and I hope we supported you fully. But what were your thoughts when you did choose to take to social media?
Well, first, you guys did a great job. I really do appreciate you guys, letting me really kind of use my platform and really just say how I feel about things that were and are still going on. And I don't know, I kind of look at it like these are things that I'm very passionate about, because they affect me because of my skin color, and I want to educate people who they're not either getting it, or sometimes it feels like they're honestly willfully choosing not to get it, and that's really part of the problem. But yeah, that was something I really felt something that needed to be done. So but yeah, thank you guys for again, like, letting me use my platform to help get some messages out.
Well, as you might expect, it's we who thank you, because there was a time when ball players weren't going to speak out. Some still don't. And when it wasn't fashionable, and their teammates, as one of Jackie Robinson's teammates said to him, "What are you people trying to prove? What is it you want?" And to speak out, you were viewed as outspoken. That was one of the euphemisms. Oh, he's an outspoken person. Now it's become, I hope, a little bit more comfortable to recognize that the human beings who happen to have fabulous God-given talent and amazing skills as a result of dedicating themselves to it, these human beings are human beings, and I think that the more we talk, the better off we are. It's when you silently harbor the anger on either side that the divide goes out. Here's a question from Robin, and Seth and Josh, I'll turn it to you. In the course of your day, getting ready for a night game at Polar Park, could you envision there being a day when you might have an opportunity to come to a Worcester school, particularly a high school, to speak with students? Could we imagine that fitting in to this spring or early summer?
Definitely yes for me. I think it's very important for me in this part of my career to speak to kids and kind of give them feedback from someone that has experience and maybe they can look up to and respect.
Well, thank you. I thank you for Robin too.
And I'll add to that. It's, most of the time the front office knows what our schedule is, and so as long as the players are able to go do that, let's say in the morning, and that they're back before our report time, that they don't miss a lot of that stuff, I'm all for that. And I think when we were in Pawtucket, you guys had ample opportunities for players to go get involved in the community, and I think that's a really good thing.
Well, thank you, Skip. Coming from you is like when John Henry told me it's our job to change this. It helps. And Joe Bradley and Alex Richardson are on the ground working with the players and trying to make that work. So, Robin, that's a good yes. And Nicholas Farrell says, how do you think the WooSox will help the city of Worcester? Well, I hope this illustrates it. You know, I'd love for Vladimir to come to the ballpark one day and maybe sit down with Josh and Seth. And Vladimir, do you have hopes of being a ball player someday, a professional ball player? You can nod if your audio is not working.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it would be cool if Vladimir could come, you know, depending on how COVID is, and become a bat boy for a day and hang around with some of the players.
How about that? All righty. Vladimir, how cool is that? That is the best. All right. Well, Joe Bradley and Alex Richardson will set that up with you. That's very cool. That's very cool. Yeah, no, that's cool.
Sounds
Dana
great.
Brown would love to see the WooSox be strong role models. That's what we all want. But these are young men who are trying to make their life's journey come true, and they're within one rung of the major leagues. They're within a 50-minute ride, maybe 45 if they're getting the call to Fenway Park, and we just want to be as supportive of them in making their dreams come true as we can. And just by and large, the ball players we've come to know have just been, to me, first rate. You know, we saw a clip before of Jackie Bradley Jr. Jackie was a minor leaguer when the movie 42 came out. We were at spring training, and everybody was invited to go watch the movie. We got tickets for the whole team, and Jackie went, and I dumbly said to Jackie, I said, now, were you named for Jackie Robinson? And it was a dumb question because he said, Charles, I'm a junior. I'm named for my father. Ah, right. Sorry. Got that. I said, was he named for Jackie Robinson? He said, no, he was named for the singer Jackie Wilson. So, and we wound up introducing Jackie to Jackie Wilson's son, thanks to Frank Jordan. What a day that was. But it was, well, you just find that so many of the ball players are just what you would imagine, so much more than athletes. These are really wonderful, conscientious people. And Xander Bogaerts, Mookie Betts, you know, we still love. You know, they come through. David Ortiz is just what you would think. And Pedro is just what you would think. So when these major leaguers come back and visit in Worcester, we really would like to provide opportunities for people to talk to them. Any more questions that people want to jot down in our remaining minutes? We have just a couple left. Let's see, you think it would be a cool thing to have some of the WooSox players come down to Double Play Sports and talk to us about being a player? Sure. Now, look, it's great to talk to children of any age and any grade, but when you talk to children who are taking the playing of baseball seriously, well, let's see, Billy, Seth, Josh, did any of you meet professional ball players or former ball players at a young age when you were just imagining playing ball professionally?
I didn't meet any professional players until I got to college. At Clemson, a lot of former players would come out to work out before they went to spring training. So that was the first time I'd ever met any professional players. And that was the early 90s, I guess, when I finally met some people that played in the big leagues.
Wow. Seth, did you meet anybody growing up in Illinois?
Yeah, there was a guy named Danny Kolb. He was a closer for a while in the big leagues, and he was from a really small town close to where I was from, and I was able to meet him when I was probably maybe in elementary school.
Nice.
That definitely made an impact on me, because where we came from, it seemed like you know, a tall task to get to somewhere like that. And when I met him, he just was a normal guy, and I think it helped me just see how the path has already been paved.
That's awesome. And Josh?
I want to say I think I was like a junior in high school. I got a chance to meet Albert Pujols, and that was like the first like big leaguer I met. And being what I was doing at the time, I was in AAU baseball, like the travel circuit, and really to see a guy like him being where I want to be, really just kind of it got to me a little bit, because I was like, like, all right, like that's the goal. So really just kind of kicks that extra drive. And it was definitely a really cool time. So
that's cool. That is cool. Superintendent, I don't want to put you on the spot too much, but I see that your camera's on. Superintendent Maureen Benenda. I know that we would love to get our players into your schools and our schools. And I know you had written a beautiful note on the chat. How excited are you for what's coming this spring and summer in Worcester?
Very excited for what's coming in spring in Worcester. And I'm sure once all those details are released, everybody is going to be totally amazed and very appreciative of this great new partnership. From the moment, Dr. Charles, you came into the city to start talking about the possible movement here, right away, right? We met and you've been talking about many of the opportunities, and we're willing to take advantage of every single one of them. So I want to thank you for today's opportunity also.
Well, thank you, Superintendent. Around how many students do we have in Worcester Public Schools?
Right about 25,000.
25,000 students who can be influenced by Billy McMillon, Josh Ockimey, Seth Blair, everyone with the WooSox. And Vladimir, you're first among them. So just as Frank Jordan was a bat boy, gosh, when he was a little kid, that must be more than 10 years ago. You can now be a bat boy too for us one day. That could be pretty cool. So many friends, I see their names on here, people we've come to know. I see Diane Flanagan again. You're becoming a faithful contributor. Diane, can you tell us the group that you brought down from Leominster when Oil Can Boyd pitched and Rich Gedman was there when we planted the plate and ran the bases? Remind me what that group was from Leominster that you have.
So it was after having a meeting with you and Steve Oliveira when we were talking about wanting to bring in children outside of the immediate Worcester community. And you were talking about how do we get these children to come? Where do we get a bus to bring these children in? How do we get them to the park? So I came home and I called my superintendent of schools, Paula Deacon, and I called Mindy Marcello, who is the director of an after school program for a lot of underprivileged children. And I said, what do you think? And Paula was on board. She said, I'll get you the bus. Tell me when, tell me where. And Mindy immediately sent home a permission slip to all the children to be able to get that permission from their parents. And these kids were so elated that they came back home and they talked about it endlessly. And I would be really happy to work with you and your team and Joe to be able to bring that same group back, because we obviously have the list of those children.
That's great.
And to even have some of the players and coaches from the Worcester Red Sox to come out to the northern Worcester County, I think it would be phenomenal.
Well, I would love to do it, because the day that we planted the plate and ran the bases, we planted the plate and placed the bases on asphalt.
Correct.
Right where the bases are now. And we videotaped it, of course. And wouldn't it be cool to go to the same spot?
Yep.
Now, and that was August 5th of 2019.
Yep.
Wouldn't it be cool if, nearly 2 years later, they all come and run that same route and you watch how it's transformed? And maybe we'll get Oil Can and Rich Gedman and maybe some of our guys who are on the WooSox as well.
And that would be great, because Rich and Oil Can are both friends of mine that I met through the fantasy camp that the Red Sox put on. I've been to 4 of their 5 years at the fantasy camp. And this year, obviously, it got canceled. But it would be wonderful to have that experience with these kids. And I would be happy to help promote other schools up in this area to be able to come and have a learning experience in one of those phenomenal experiences at Polo Park.
Well,
hey Diane, Joe Bradley here.
Yeah.
Just wanted to let you know we'd be more than happy to work with you on that. I've been working in the Red Sox organization for about 8 seasons now, and have had the pleasure to work with so many great players, staff, coaches. Our manager, Billy McMillon here, is always great about being flexible with guys' schedules and letting us know when we can send players out in the community or not. And this year, whether we're forced to do things virtually or if we're able to do things in person, we want to be as active and as helpful as possible. So thank you.
Well, I thank you for that. And I'll reach out to you after all of this. And that would be great. Thank you.
Let me thank our guests, but let me, before I ask them for any final farewells, give you these 2 stories that dovetail together. It was 1947. Jackie Robinson breaks the color barrier, and a teammate of his refuses to play. Dixie Walker says to Branch Rickey, "I'm not playing." And I don't know whether it was with him or with them or whatever he said. And Branch Rickey traded him. 17 years later, it's 1964. And Dixie Walker is a coach with the Milwaukee Braves. And they're at dinner, the coaches are at dinner with a young man who is such a zealous Milwaukee Braves fan, kind of a nutty fan, that he's been going around helping them sell season tickets. 29 years old, almost 30. And the young man is hearing Dixie Walker extol the virtues of Henry Aaron. Oh, what a great player he is. What a good man he is. And so 29-year-old car dealer Bud Selig says to Dixie Walker, "I have to ask you, do you regret saying what you said about Jackie Robinson 17 years ago?" And Dixie Walker said, "Buddy, yes, I do. But let me tell you something. I'm from the Deep South." I don't remember if it was Mississippi or Alabama. He said, "I had never met an African American. We were so segregated, I never encountered them. All I heard were stories. And so it was terrifying to think that I was going to be playing, living, sharing a bathroom with one." He said, "But I got to know Jackie Robinson, and I not only liked him, I respected him, I admired him, and I wrote him a letter apologizing for my own lack of knowledge. And he wrote back to me and thanked me." So he tells that story to Bud Selig in 1964. 33 years later, Bud Selig is with Rachel Robinson when they're going to retire 42. And Bud recalls the story to her. And she says, "Bud, exactly right. He sent the letter. Jackie read it. He wrote back to him. They had a good relationship the rest of the way. He didn't know. He had never met someone who was African American." She said, "But look at what baseball did. It brought together people who wouldn't have known each other and broke down those barriers." Tell me this. When an immigrant from Romania settles in bitter cold Milwaukee and has a son in 1934 who's Jewish, what chance is that Jewish kid in Milwaukee going to have of becoming friends with an African-American baseball player. Tell me that the grandson of a slave born in Mobile, Alabama, the same year, 1934, is ever going to end up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin and befriend that Jewish baby born in 1934. Only when Bud Selig turned 13 in 1947 and Mobile-born Henry Aaron turned 13 in 1947 did Jackie Robinson's breakthrough create the possibility, no matter how still remote it would be, that these two 13-year-olds would ever meet. And in 1957, it was one of the clips you saw, September 23rd, 1957, Hank Aaron hit the pennant-winning home run for the Milwaukee Braves. And Bud Selig saw a team of white players carrying a black hero on their shoulders. And he saw the picture in the newspaper of it the next day. There was another picture in the paper the next day too. Arkansas Governor Orville Faubus preventing the Little Rock Nine from attending Little Rock Central. In one city, baseball had brought everyone together. In another city, they were being kept apart. From Jackie Robinson to Henry Aaron, through Bud Selig, through Billy McMillon, through Josh Ockimey, through Seth Blair, through Frank Jordan, through Joe Bradley, through Alex Richardson, Steve Oliveira, we're making progress. We've still got a long way to go. We didn't think we'd have to still do so much this many years later. But as I say, it's transformed from an historical event to current events. So Billy Mack, thank you. Any words of farewell before we hope to see you at Polar Park in maybe 2 months, 60 days?
I just want to leave you guys with a couple quick stories. In 1997, the year that 42 was retired, I was a member of the Florida Marlins. And when we came through New York, I think they were having like a mini celebration every time a new team came in so that they could kind of partake in that. I got a chance to meet Rachel Robinson and took pictures with her. And that was a really cool event. And I remember telling her how proud and how special I thought her and her husband, what they did for baseball was, and that was one of the coolest meets that I had. And then fast forward 4 years later, I got to spend and have lunch with their daughter Sharon in California when I was with Oakland, and she recalls that meeting when I met her mother. She was around, but I was like so enamored with Rachel that Sharon was off to the side. So that was really cool that I got to meet Rachel and Sharon.
That's very cool. Very cool. Rachel is like the queen of dignity.
Yes.
You know? And bless her heart, at 98.
Yes.
Isn't that something? Wow, that is cool, Billy. Josh, I know we want to see you at Fenway, but till then, we're happy to see you at Polar Park in 2 months. You getting ready?
I am. I'm itching to go. So I've been in the house and doing, workouts and all that, and it's just right around this time, you want to jump on the field and jump into some games, and I'm excited. So,
well, we can't wait. We can't wait to show you the new ballpark and show you a new clubhouse. See what we can still fix up for you. So we're looking at it's about 85% done. So
nice.
All righty, and Frank Jordan.
Yes, I got a guest just walked in. Get in front of me.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Oh, Mr. Sonberg, it's been a minute since I've seen you.
My son, James.
James, who we knew since James was a little one. Now, James, tell us, Frank, give us the update.
He's in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And he got stationed at Miramar, which is 20 minutes away from the house. So he just stopped for a few minutes. I just want everybody to stay safe, wear your mask, and just make sure we get through this pandemic safely.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
If I can add one more thing, Charles, just happenstance on the wall in my office is a picture. It's a Life magazine that my father got. Jackie Robinson is on the cover, and the date is May 8th, 1950.
Wow.
And I got it framed, and this is where my desk is, and that's on my wall from 1950. So that's what that picture is.
That was a chills moment for me. Thank you. That's very cool. The validation of the personal living connection is that's very cool. Very cool. All righty. Joe Bradley, Steve Oliveira, any logistics to wrap up with our group?
Now, Charles, I just wanted to thank everybody once more for joining us, all our fans who are on this call, supporters, our players, alumni in particular. We're just really fortunate to be able to work with such a great group of people, and we're thankful for everybody joining us this year. Looks a little different doing it virtually, but it's still important to pay respect to Jackie Robinson and paying homage to Hank Aaron as well. I'm just thankful for everybody getting together, and hope everybody enjoys the rest of their weekend.
Well, thanks. And Steve Oliveira, you've been the silent coordinator of all this. I'm going to ask you to see if when we set up the day for Vladimir to come out to Polar Park as a bat boy, you can let this group know. Wouldn't that be validating for him to know? He had to leave, by the way, to go to practice. It's 23 degrees. I love that. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Barry Schumann, you're the best. I see your note. I'll impose my music on you another time. But Frank Jordan, thank you for joining us from San Diego. Billy Mack to call from South Carolina. Josh from Philadelphia. Seth from Arizona. Oil Cam from Mississippi. Maybe this isn't such a bad way to do it, you know? So I thank you all. Superintendent Benenda, thank you so much. And Council Member Christian King, I think you were on there, so I think we just couldn't get to hear you. But thank you for your leadership, and we look forward to continuing to work with you to make sure that this entire community enjoys the beauty of baseball with the WooSox at Polar Park. Thank you, everybody.